Oh shit, we back? Hell yeah. And we back. Yeah, basically, the nice air conditioning man displaced the internet box, and the internet box went what, and decided that it needed a bit. So yeah, the prophecy of their return. Wait, I already did. I'm gonna run a 2-minute ad to get rid of the pre-rolls for people rolling back in, and I'm gonna go to the bathroom while doing so. So I will see you guys in a brief bit. Echoes of Ren from the Distance sounds like some type of album cover. I mean, and hey, you know what? If you get a free extra stream for your stream streak, hell yeah. Good for you.
Did they just vaguely hear me crashing out about how hot I was?
A little bit, yeah. Although I don't think they heard the words, so that. But now they know that's what you're crashing out about. Okay. Marvelous. But hey, on the bright side, Shifu say we did. Well, Shifu say, well, I did. That's excellent. But yes, welcome on back, everybody. Basically, if it's my knowledge, if there is more than 5 minutes of like downtime, it's a separate stream, basically, as far as Twitch is concerned. Yeah. So yeah. I guess it's because I've already been streaming quite a while. This will certainly be a relatively short, like, stream relative to the others. I certainly hope. I guess we'll need to make a clip so that people can easily. And see you later, Meatball. Thanks for hanging around. I appreciate it. And what a funny bit of technical issues near the end here. We still got a solid hour. So, but yeah, I hope you get some good sleep, Meatball, and I hope you have a lovely evening. Toodaloo! And big hugs. And let's see, this wand, I suppose I can just do this. Here we go. I think I should be able to get at this one. From underneath, I say! Or not. Come on! Why you gotta make this difficult? Game, come on! I am too hot for this shit! Ah! Okay, so I'm just gonna stand here and we're gonna press E a bunch. Ah, maybe from this angle. Okay, I got this. What if? Oh, no. There it is. And we got it. He isn't isolated lace away from my larynx. That's marvelous. And I agree. And what did you get? What did you get, Schleefu? Tee. Oh, you got a new stream streak? Oh, hell yeah. A 30 stream streak. That means that you are rapidly catching up with Ren's sizable stream streak here, which means you got probably the second largest in the channel. Which is damn impressive, I say. I love that meat standing. Same, but divided by 3. I am delighted by this. This is beautiful art. I'm also so happy that the AC is now functioning, or rather that we got a window unit for our AC. Because that's, you know, in the United States, if you guys didn't know how this works, if the air conditioning breaks in the United States, and the temperature is gonna be like, Ren, is it like 80 something or is it 90 something?
Right now?
No, where they're legally obligated to give you a window unit.
I believe in Kansas.
In Kansas, it is. They looking it up. And you just make where you are. You just make sure you close the windows at the right time. That's pretty bad. Yeah, I guess it's partly because, you know, in the United States there's a lot more temperature extremes. Really? I could believe it. Because I don't necessarily have. If I have an easy way of knowing what you guys' streaks are, I don't know what it is.
So I'm having trouble finding the exact streak. So the way it works is, especially because we are disabled, in this regard, we have federal protections that other tenants do not naturally have, which is to say, if the temperature gets above a certain amount, regardless of local law, the federal law kind of steps in. As of right now, I don't want to talk about the DOJ press release that said that disabled people don't have a right to living within their communities, which could directly impact these very kinds of accommodations, and claimed that the law was inaccurately applied for ADA for, like, you know, 2.5 decades.
What is this, and when did this come out?
Just recently. I really don't want to have to
No, that's fine, love.
So
I
it's
just...
a DOJ like release, so it doesn't have any legal standing, but it's
It doesn't
them,
have any legal standing as of yet.
Yeah, it's them making clear where they stand and what kind of legal actions they will, won't take, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And it means that they might very well try to argue to the Supreme Court something of that very nature. Like,
right,
trying to set a precedent.
I understand. Yeah, like that's what they're hoping for. Yeah, I got you.
But regardless, as of right now, at the very least, like, if you are disabled and you're living in a place, they have to have, like, a certain, like, it can't get too hot.
Yeah.
If it starts to get too hot, and it essentially, I think it has more to do with, like, if it's beyond a reasonable amount and, like, it is clearly affecting your health, they must provide a means for you to be cooled down. On top of that, in Kansas, though landlords are not legally required to provide air conditioning, if air conditioning is in the lease, which ours is,
yep, it is.
They do, in fact, have a duty to maintain it. This means that if it stops working, they have a set amount of days to fix that problem. And if they can't fix it, they must either provide alternative housing while they are working on it, or they have to do something like what they've done here with the window unit.
Mm-hmm. I wonder why it just suddenly is the game be a little bit slower. That's funny.
Probably because it's overheating.
Yeah, maybe. Peculiar. But yeah. Oh, no, nothing but Schleefu say that Ren's going all lawyer right now. Yeah, Ren like that. And it's true. I mean, what can I say? You know what that phrase, they got that dog in them or something? Teehee. And you know, you set them up for like a ridiculous, like, some ridiculous sex pun, or the simple, like, you know, tried and true classic. They got that dog in them, they can't talk right now. However, it does mean that you can tell people who do live in the USA about certain things of that nature. And you know, that is good. Because most people are not necessarily... it's true, they do got that lawyer and they can't talk right now. Yeah, like, it's one of those, it's a federal law, so anybody living in the US... Yeah, basically, especially if they're disabled, right? Like, the tenants are, like, especially disabled tenants are entitled to certain rights and whatnot in that respect. Yeah. And it's, yeah. But yeah, it's some absolute complete fuckery in terms of the, like, current administration. I didn't know about that till just now. Like, that sounds like some absolute fuckery. But given the fact that, like, frankly, I don't know what would happen if they, like, tried to, like, legitimately destroy the Americans with Disabilities Act. It wouldn't be good, and I think that it might well just end the entirety of the administration right then and there. TBH. You may say, why? Why would that happen? And the answer is because all elderly people are disabled. Both in a legal sense and in a literal sense. True, Schleefu. Austria is indeed the backup plan if everything else goes to hell. In a handbasket, yes. That said, like, and I guess these days I would, you know, like, have a much better claim to asylum than at other times. Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely need some type of, like, in respect to, like, the academic situation there. But, yeah. To, like, have more of, like, a easy guaranteed way in, as it were. But, yeah, I could probably, you know, at minimum, be hanging out there for a while due to from an asylum claim. If it came down to that, and I probably wouldn't have the hugest amount of trouble getting my medication situation sorted. Yeah. You'll visit and make glass noodles with tofu for y'all, and you can see how good your tofu game is. I mean, I would look forward to that. That would be nice and very lovely. That would be a lot of fun, really. But yeah, realistically, things would have to get, like, really quite severely bad for us to, like, evacuate in this manner, because the biggest trouble, in my opinion, with being the type of disabled that Ren and I are, is that movement and mobility are quite troublesome and difficult. Not impossible. Just they're quite the investment of, like, time and energy and effort and all that. I mean, I feel that, yeah. But yeah. I mean, like, it's worth considering, because, you know, like, it theoretically might happen someday. But you never know. Because you never know, right? But, like, also, I'm not that. I don't think so. Like, maybe, but in my heart of hearts, I don't feel like it will come to that. TBH, I feel like various other things. I think it's more likely for the entirety of the, like, human civil society and whatnot to kind of break down, you know, and make, essentially so that there would be nowhere for people to go, in general, myself or otherwise, than it would be for this to occur. That said, it would not be, it would not be the first or last time I would be wrong, I'm sure. Sometimes you be big wrong, and that's just how be. I appreciate it. I certainly appreciate it if such a thing were to happen. But yeah. It's definitely one of those weird-ass things about, like, Yep, frankly, like, here's one of the things I really don't like about fascism. Like, nobody likes fascism, right? Obviously. But one of the things I really don't like about it is how unbelievably, unfathomably, nonsensically unscientific it is, to the point where they legitimately sabotage all of their own efforts with, like, how unscientific they are. Right? You know, like, do you guys know about the Schlieffen plan? Not related to Schlieffen. You know people who, like, legitimately like fascism? That's fucked up, bro. I am so sorry to hear that you know people that legitimately like fascism, because frankly, there's nothing to like. So, the Schlieffen plan is something that occurred during World War II. It was a German plan that involved the marching of a whole bunch of troops over an unreasonable distance and an unreasonably short length of time, such that the idea was that France and several other countries would be unable to respond. It was part of the Blitzkrieg strategy. Basically, part of the Schlieffen plan was them basically, you know, following up the Blitzkrieg with a bunch of, like, troopers who were going to reinforce various areas, right, to be able to hold the ground they just took, right? So, the trouble, obviously, with this is that, you know, moving all those people is going to be damn difficult. So the first thing they needed to do was secure the railways. So they needed to make sure that under no circumstances did the railways get destroyed or fucked with. Now, they believed that the exact calculated speed of how many feet the average human being walks, the average speed of a human being marching, that this divided by the distance could be how long it took. They did not factor in time for sleep, eating, resting of any kind, changing out boots. So naturally, this plan did not just catastrophically fail, it failed so unbelievably badly that it had to completely change the entire strategy of that war. Right? France was able to cause... Yeah, exactly. Fascists are so fucking stupid. So, here's the reason for that. And fundamentally, something you can tell people who are, like, arguing in favor of fascism is that it's fundamentally anti-empiricist. That if you believe in fascism, you don't believe in science. Because that is true. Because science fundamentally is about empiricism, right? It is about being fundamentally in contact with reality. Fascism is not about that. Fascism is about myths and, like, strange, like, and just actually just, like, fanciful ideals supposedly made into reality, when in fact that's just not how that goes. Exactly. It's, you know, it's rooted in fucking, you know, mythology and pseudoscience, yeah. Precisely so. And as it happens, like, the reason actually, no, every fascist regime fails eventually, right? It's because the weight of logistics that they neglect. Because, I don't talk about it too often, but something that comes up some of the time, but it's a big deal, is bureaucracy. So, a badly made bureaucracy is awful. I think everyone agrees. However, a well-made bureaucracy? Oh, let's ask. Chat, what is the purpose of a well-made bureaucracy that functions correctly? You may cheat if you wish and look it up on the internet. That's fine. The main purpose of bureaucracy and the main benefit of it is yeah, exactly. It's standardizing procedures to make things more efficient in many respects. But the biggest thing is the division of labor. It allows you to divide labor in a way that is functional, efficient, effective. And the problem is that this, like, bureaucracy, it is a tool of logistics, right? Now, the trouble that most fascists have is that bureaucrats are anti-fascist by nature. It's just actually very funny, right? But it is the way it is, because all people in a position of in a bureaucracy, like, this is a fact. It's not to say they can't be complicit and result in the rise of such things, right? But bureaucracies, like, fundamentally involve logistics. At the end of the day, fascism involves a great deal of magical thinking. Right? Yes, at the start. At the start, Schlifu. And by the end, they were barely able to manufacture firearms. Well, towards the end, they had complete bureaucratic breakdown. Their entire bureaucratic apparatus was falling apart at the seams. because I mean it's kind of, I think it's most illustrated by the firearms. Realistically, the firearms manufactured during that time frame were of categorically substantially lower quality, a lot more prone to malfunction, and like they were like less likely to have their magazines be interchangeable between guns. That's a direct and demonstrable like bit of evidence there, right? However, I mean, like, it's probably a problem of definitions here. So what we're talking about there is not specifically the bureaucracy, right? That is what we would call engineered and efficient, like, cruelty and shit. But that's not... Bureaucracy is fundamentally just a tool of the division of labor, right? But the problem was, as it has always been, that corruption is kind of like a thing that's built into fascism. Cronyism is also built into fascism, right? But they are fundamentally anti-empiricist at their core, just because they make do with certain realities for a time does not mean that once they are given full reign, right? I mean, yeah, the production, yeah, that's one of the reasons that everything was fucking up, yes. But that's not the only reason. Like, these things are multifaceted, right? Because, actually, I think a great comparison is, in fact, England. The things that England was still able to produce tended to have a higher degree of interoperability, and that is because of the intact nature of their bureaucratic apparatus. That's what I would certainly argue. Because they too were very thoroughly bombed. Because trust me, I'm very thoroughly aware of the types of shit that went on in like places like Dachau, and you know, I'm well aware of these things. That said, this is not the full story when it comes to the effects of bureaucracy, right? As it comes to the World War II things, right? Because at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of shit going on in that respect. And fascism, in many respects, degrades the bureaucratic apparatus as they are replaced with cronies. Fundamentally, this is the breakdown that happens. The skilled logisticians are the first people to tell the, like, fascist leader, this isn't going to work. They're the first people to be ousted. So the skilled logisticians go first. Right? I am actually fully aware that not all the Nazis were removed from the German bureaucracy. Is that the current, like, is that the one with like that has like a descendant that's like, no, that I'm thinking of the one in Italy. No, I don't. Do tell. I mean, if anything, it's like, that's pretty standard, right? Because, you know, that's like, it's fucked up, but it's kind of standard in terms of like how this shit was inadequately dealt with in the past. Because, you know, by and large, like we as in the human species don't have the best track record when it comes to dealing with such like things and then rooting out the ideological corruption properly. We have a pretty poor track record in that respect. Oh gosh, I should have taken my painkiller about an hour and a half ago. That's bad. Very good, very good. Now I've taken it. I've solved this problem. Excellent. Maravilhoso. Kick ass. Wee. Wee. Nazi terror organization. Largely built up by the Office for the Protection of the Constitution. Best translation come up with, I see. Fascinating. Yeah, that's some fuckery. That's some absolute fuckery, yeah. I'm really terribly unsurprised, right? Like, that's, yeah. I'm right. See, this is the fucked up part about these things. So here's like, this is basically as far as you can be. Alrighty, so let me pull up some works by Umberto Eco. He's a very important academic. Yes. He wrote the book titled Fascism, and he basically wrote out the 14 points of fascism. Yeah. It's a very important book. One is the cult of tradition, characterized by the cultural syncretism, which is combining or merging of various distinct belief schools of thought, particularly religious ones. And then the rejection of modernity, which views the rationalistic development of Western culture since the Enlightenment as a descent into depravity, which, mind you, this includes scientific advancement. Yeah, like, this is part of what I'm talking about, right? And then there's the cult of action for action's sake. And yet, this is yet another example of what I'm speaking of, in terms of the breakdown of, like, empiricism, right? And then this one is one of the worst ones in this respect, which is, quote, disagreement is treason. I will give you a link to this thing in just a moment. I'll just link you to the Wikipedia. It's very nice. It's very good. It's 10 out of 10. I highly recommend. Well, here's the thing. No, they love it initially, right? But as soon as it gets in the way of reality, right? As soon as the logistical end of bureaucracies get in the way, they drop it by the wayside along with their whole logistics network to some extent. Which is why all fascist dictatorships are destined for failure from the very get-go. It has in no small part to do with the next several things, right? I'm gonna get to these other things, right? Let me finish the damn things. You gotta read. It's important to look at the things. Disagreement is treason. Fascism devalues intellectual discourse and critical reasoning as barriers to action, as well as out of fear that such analysis will expose the contradictions embodied in a syncretistic faith, such as the fascism and whatnot, right? Then there's fear of difference. Seeks to exploit and exacerbate, often in the form of racism or an appeal against foreigners and immigrants. And then there is an appeal to a frustrated middle class, fearing economic pressure from the demands and aspirations of lower social groups. And obsession with a plot. And the inflation and the focus on an enemy threat. This often combines an appeal to xenophobia with a fear of disloyalty and sabotage from marginalized groups living within society. Echo also cites Pat Robertson's book, The New World Order, as a prominent example of a plot obsession. Fascist societies rhetorically cast their enemies at the same time too strong and too weak. On the one hand, fascists play up the power of certain disfavored elites to encourage in their followers a sense of grievance and humiliation. On the other hand, fascist leaders point to decadence of those elites as proof of their ultimate feebleness in the face of an overwhelming popular will. Pacifism is trafficking with the enemy because life is permanent warfare. There must always be an enemy to fight. Both fascist Germany under Hitler and Italy under Mussolini worked first to organize and clean up their respective countries and then build the war machines that they later intended to and did use, despite Germany being under restrictions of the Versailles Treaty to not build a military force. The principle leads to a fundamental contradiction within fascism, the incompatibility of ultimate triumph with perpetual war. And then there is contempt for the weak, which is uncomfortably married to a chauvinistic popular elitism in which every member of society is superior to outsiders by virtue of belonging to the in-group. Echo sees these attitudes the root of a deep tension in the fundamentally hierarchical structure of fascist situations and whatnot, societies, as they encourage leaders to despise their underlings up to the ultimate leader, who holds the whole country in contempt for having allowed him to overtake it by force. And then everybody is educated to become a hero, which leads to the embrace of the cult of death, as Echo observes. The Ur-fascist hero is impatient to die. In his impatience, he frequently sends other people to death. Machismo, which sublimates the difficult work of permanent war and heroism into the sexual sphere. Fascists thus hold both disdain for women and intolerance and condemnation of non-standard sexual habits, from chastity to homosexuality. Selective populism. And mind you, that's not to say they're not doing all the things at the same time. They usually are, but that's a separate discussion. Selective populism. The people, conceived monolithically, have a common will, distinct from and superior to the viewpoint of any individual, as no mass of people can ever be truly unanimous. The leader holds himself out as the interpreter of the popular will, though truly he alone dictates it. Fascists use this concept to delegitimize democratic institutions. They accuse of no longer representing the voice of the people. And then newspeak, which fascism employs and promotes an impoverished vocabulary to in order to limit critical reasoning. These are the 14 principles of Ur-fascism. These are the foundational kinds of things that involve the construction of what fascism really means in many respects, right? Yeah, right? These things, everything I've said has been fundamentally in line with all of that, right? Because at the end of the day, all of these things, it's fascism is a process, right? More than anything, if you want to analyze fascism, it is a process, right? Because this process is it starts at one point. Are they the answer is yes and no. At the start, yes. At the end, not even a little. Right? Because, again, this is about, the fact that it's a process. Because at the end of the day, you have to look at it from, Well, I guess plasma beam bounce simply do not work on, Giga Death Cross. Good to know. Wait a minute. What happens if I throw chaotic transmutation on this? Tell me, what happens? Yeah, right. I didn't do it with the thing. Oopsie doopsie. Seemingly jack shit changes. And it still doesn't seem to bounce. Oh well. Ruko Skeevy, also known as Old Man. Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, like, and that's all right. You're certainly allowed to disagree with me, and I certainly don't take any issue with you disagreeing, right? That's it. I mean, I'm certainly not gonna. You're unlikely to change my mind on this one, but if you present me with some solid evidence from an academic paper, for sure I'll change my mind. But like at the end of the day, it comes down to like the nature of the approach to these things, which is to hijack bureaucracy in order to basically implement anti-empiricist and anti-democratic. Well, no, okay, anti-empiricist, anti-democratic, and anti-bureaucratic policies that fundamentally destroy the bureaucratic apparatus from within. Both to perpetuate their, like, treason plot type, like, issues and insanity, as well as to, you know, get rid of people they view as being treasonous. Serves multiple purposes at the same time. But that's once again why fascism is a process, right? Because depending on where it is in the process, it will look very different. But that's okay. Don't you worry. So, here's my thing, and that's in any case, there is something very important about bureaucracy to remember, which is that it's neutral. Bureaucracy didn't do nothing wrong, it's the people that done bureaucracy dirty. Right? Because bureaucracy, like literally everything else that humans have invented, is a tool. Yeah. And like most tools, can be used for good and evil. I can understand why you, with your particular background and like where you're from, might feel differently.
No, I don't really want to do it.
But that said, fundamentally, it's just a way of organizing people and dividing labor. Fair, fair. I did not expect bureaucracy to be such a polarizing topic, quite frankly. I'll make sure to casually never mention it again. But no, I'm mostly kidding. I'll probably mention it again, but you know, probably won't dwell on it very long. Because fundamentally, yeah, like it's a it's a system, right? Like most systems, can be abused for various ends.
I don't know of any system where that can't occur, really. If you do, please tell me about it. I'd love to hear it. And we should probably all immediately implement it. It's a good thing to argue over, you think? That's in it. I'm certainly down to do so. It's just that this one in particular seems to have lost like a not small number of viewers, like something like 4. It could be the case that 2 or 3 of them are just like, you know, people's internet and whatnot. That could be the case. Maybe people don't like arguments about such topics. Oh no, it's okay. Don't worry. No, it's okay, man. Like the thing is, like I'm new to this. We all new to this. So like every day we be learning things that are, you know, like that tend to drive away significant numbers of people. And you know, that's okay. Cause you know, I would genuinely not have predicted this one. So here's the thing, Shlifu. You're all good. You've done nothing wrong, TBH. However, I sincerely would, like I said, I would not have predicted this one as a thing that might possibly, like in most every other case that something of this nature has occurred, to a significant extent, it was predictable to me. This one actually got me a bit, hit me a bit off guard, right? I was expecting that this one, I think it might well be what a polarizing relationship most people have with the word bureaucracy, because in most cases, the vast majority of people that I know, myself included, have only ever interacted with faulty, badly made bureaucracies that are not even good at their jobs. Right? And that this creates a negative association between the word bureaucracy and, you know, most everybody. And I appreciate that, Shlifu. Don't worry. Given that how small the number, like in this particular case, right? Like the difference between 8 or 10 and 6 is not very big, right? So it's not a big deal. Truly. Not a big deal at all. But I appreciate that, Shlifu, muchly. You're a big old sweet person, and I much appreciate it. But yeah. And it's definitely like, I just find it rather interesting that, like, it would be bureaucracy that it would do it. But then again, it could be fascism. Like, what I don't know, because I wasn't watching the numbers. It's alright, don't you worry, Shlifu. These things happen. I just want you to know that I appreciate that you did your best. Just because it didn't work out one time is all perfectly alright. Perhaps the timing was just off with when the internet went out. I assume that's what happened. But hey, that be life sometimes. Maybe something else happened. But it's okay, because some of the time the raids, you know, it's fine. I am not the type of person to get overly grumpified about it. It can be grumpifying at times in certain situations, but I think this was fine. Realistically. But I appreciate the, you know, I appreciate the care that is expressed with the grump. That is to say, I appreciate your concern. Cause yeah, it's just one of them things. But yeah, I wonder if it's not like I possibly